Thank you so much for joining us. And we're about to welcome my first guest, Mike Messersmith of Oatly.
Right.
Hello. I like that entrance. Look at the
Yeah,
enthusiasm
there's a
there.
little hustle. It's good.
Cool, man. Well, it's great to have you here. How's
Thank you.
how's BevNet Live treating you so far?
It's fantastic. It's been, it's actually my first BevNet Live I've ever attended.
Oh, wow.
I know. So, but just sitting there, great content. Get a chance to see a whole bunch of people I've worked with before, we do business with, really exciting. And then super excited about Oatly's recognition that we got a little bit ago. So
yes, congratulations. Exciting. If you guys watching here didn't see, Oatly was selected as a rising star and for our BevNet Best of 2018 awards. Probably a perfect tee up for you to explain what is Oatly.
What is Oatly? That's an excellent one. So Oatly is we do a vegan plant-based milk made out of oats. We're a company that's based in Sweden. Been making oat milk in Scandinavia for over 25 years, but been in the United States for less than 2. And just trying to introduce the United States and American consumers to the beautiful world of oat milk in the plant-based dairy and dairy alternative space.
Well, that's really interesting. I mean, sort of put it into perspective for us, because this is something that's existed in Scandinavia for a long time. It's a mature market. What was the process of bringing this over into the United States and introducing it into this market? How do you explain oat milk to people?
It's a little bit of a journey. I think it's one of the funniest things, especially at a place like BevNet. A lot of people ask, where did this idea come from? And I think people have a perception of, especially small natural foods and beverage companies now, that it's like a bunch of bankers or consultants sitting behind a double mirrored glass and listening to focus groups or trying to tap onto this dietary trend of keto and all these other things. But we've been making oat. We just have a company full of just very passionate, science-driven oat nerds over in Sweden who have just we've been making the same product, basically the same formula since the early 90s, and have had a lot of success over there and grew the business kind of gradually and started in Scandinavia, expanded to the UK, now sold in over 30 countries globally. And we got to a point where you just see the confluence of the brand readiness and where the market was in terms of new innovation, the category continuing to grow. And we said, I think the company made a decision back in 2015, 2016, just to say, I think now is the right time for us to launch in the US. The category is at a maturity standpoint where people are not just buying this for functional benefits, but they're starting to look for it for true brands and something that's differentiated. There's a willingness to accept new products and new formats within the category that was paved by many, many amazing brands long before we sold our first case in the US. So we try to explain it to people as saying, well, it's familiar with oats. It's got a great kind of natural taste to it, really smooth, really great consistency, really simple ingredients. It's incredibly friendly for people with specific dietary needs. So it's vegan, non-GMO, no dairy, no nuts, no soy, gluten-free. And we've gotten just really amazing response to it, beyond what we really, I think, imagined. And we had pretty high hopes and aspirations, but it's gone really fast and been super exciting for us.
That's great. And you're talking about the development of category and stuff like that. I mean, plant-based, non-dairy milks is growing as a whole. What sort of use occasions are sort of fitting for Oatly, and how does that stand out from the almond milks, cashew milks, and all the other kind of things that we're seeing in this growing space?
Sure. Yeah, I think first off, we are firm proponents of the growth of plant-based food and beverage. Full period, stop. That is an important thing, to have great options no matter what the format are. And primarily for us, that comes down to issues of sustainability, climate change, and that one of the number one things that people can do to actually have an impact on some of these really disturbing trends that you read about is shift to a more balanced plant-based diet. And the more brands across the entire store that make credible, amazing offerings there, make it easier for consumers to do that. And so obviously, we're very bullish on Oatly, but we would also say we love the development of plant-based food and beverage overall, and very, very support that. For Oatly, when you talk about occasions, it really comes down to where we started in the US. We paused on doing any retail, any major things for almost, it was a full year with just a focus on coffee shops. And that was really where we started in the US. Literally, one first account, which was Intelligentsia Coffee, 11 stores, a handful of amazing first partners in New York City, and then started just building it shop by shop from there. And that was where people were able to discover something that they hadn't tried before. Because when you ask someone to try oat milk, no one wants to stand there and get a Dixie cup of product handed out to them at a trade station. Like, that's so weird. If you have the product through a great cappuccino delivered by your local barista at your favorite local coffee shop, you're much more inclined to want to say, like, oh, well, that's kind of interesting. I get it now. So when you can create that really powerful first experience with a brand, it really has really great sticking power. And so that's where we started. And now I've expanded into retail. We have some e-commerce presence and just trying to build from there.
Well, in creating that initial experience is going to hopefully draw people back and repeat purchases. You know, in that cafe experience, how do you sort of make sure that people know when they're getting, hey, I want that latte with oat milk, they know they're getting Oatly, because we're seeing some more competition
Yeah.
here.
Well, the competition's great. We love it. We obviously love our product, but we think more options are fantastic to helping build that oat segment. I think, you know, we were the first ones to really do it, so we have a lot of initial, you know, presence with certain partners that really stand out. And, you know, I think there's a fine line that brands, every brand marketer, every brand company that you talk to is always going to want to have their logo front and center. They're going to want to have a big splashy branded presence in all their outlets. But especially when you start talking about coffee shops, they are brands in and of themselves. And that authentic cafe environment where they have put so much purposeful intention behind all the design choices they've made, the last thing that they want most of the time is some CPG company coming in pushing for a brand signage and posters and all this other stuff. So we just try to be cool about it, and when it makes sense, that's awesome. If it doesn't, it's fine. Our carton and our packaging does a lot of the heavy lifting for us, and we just try to make great personal connections with the baristas that are serving their regular customers. And if they understand what Oatly is and what makes it great, it's easy for them to recommend us to their regular customers, and then people get into routines. So we try to have a delicate touch when it comes to on-premise, which is one of the hardest parts for brand companies to do because everybody wants to make it super splashy, but a little goes a long way there.
Absolutely. Well, you know, developing, you know, sticking with oats, you guys are oat nerds. Where else can the innovation go? I mean, we're seeing it in beverages. Where else are you guys looking?
Well, I mean, I think that's one of the things we're most excited about here in the U.S. I mean, we only do oats. We don't know anything about cashews or low-fat cows or anything else. So we've had a lot of time to really work on developing great oat-based products. In Sweden, we have over 80 to 90 products. We make all with a common oat base. And that includes frozen treats, yogurts, spreads, ready-to-drink items. And I think for us, we try to take one step at a time, you know, continue to build our base of operations here in the U.S., make sure that we're ready, that consumers are ready, customers are ready, and that we have the base of operations to expand. But we have all our products on our website. We're so excited to continue to introduce people to what we can do with this amazing simple ingredient. So,
in terms of the RTD beverage side of things, are there any interesting products that you guys are market in Europe that maybe we could eventually see over here?
Yeah, I mean, we have a whole. I think ultimately we look at RTD as a simple, accessible way for people to try the product. Over in the United States, it's a very different business. When you talk about RTD versus grocery chilled or even on-premise food service distribution. And so we would have to have a really clear point of view on what new or interesting element are we adding to the category to launch an RTD, because then we would need to build a whole infrastructure, support system, sales team behind that, because the go-to-market is just so different than what we do today. And so we would have to have a product that we felt really nailed it. And I don't know that we're there yet today. We have other things we're going to focus on in the short term.
Mike, it was so great to have you here. I can't wait to see what else you guys come up with.
Appreciate it. Thanks.